Me again, here for example 3, page 11 of our Unit 3 packet in Chapter 16. So again, just more about tests and intervals. The difference between this problem and the previous one is that this example asks us to run a test and talk about the error that occurs after the test has been run. Okay, so let's read through carefully because we need to decide if this is, remember, we now know 2 kinds of tests. One is t-test, which happened on means, and the other one is test on proportions. So we need to discuss which one this is based on what's provided. So let's read carefully. A company is willing to renew its advertising contract with a local radio station only if the station can prove more than 20% of the residents of the city have heard the ad and recognized the company's product. So here we have more than 20%. Ooh, that is a percentage. So we have been provided with a percentage and a direction for a null hypothesis. This is looking very much like a 1 prop Z test. Let's keep reading. The radio station conducts a random phone survey. Okay, so we're talking about how we've met our conditions of 600 people. Remember that whatever comes after the random survey is going to be our N. And it finds 133 people that recognize the product. All right. Basically, they asked a yes or no question. Do you recognize the product? They asked 600 people. 133 said yes. This is, in fact, going to be our 1 prop Z test. Our X is going to end up being 133. N is 600. And it looks like P naught is going to be the guess of 20%. So it says use an alpha level of 0.05 to discuss what this survey reveals about renewing the contract. So let's begin with our hypotheses. Remember, if this is a 1 prop Z test, then the hypotheses look like P equals, and then P is greater than, less than, or not equal to. That direction comes from this language right here, more than, okay? More than implies greater than. And then the value after that statement helps me figure out what my P naught is for my calculator. The hypothesized value here is 0.2. So here we would go to our calculator to run a 1 prop Z test, and we would make X equal to 133, N will be equal to 600, and P naught is going to be equal to 0.2. Sorry, I didn't go in order. And then we want to choose the greater than symbol. Out from our calculator, we get a Z-score and a p-value. Our Z-score here happens to be 1.327, and our p-value is 0.092. Now remember that we want to compare 0.092 to alpha of 0.05. And the Z-score tells us we're about 1.3 standard deviations away from the center here. P-value of 0.092, now we're comparing that to 0.05. So 0.092 is in fact greater than 0.05. If we have a p-value greater than our alpha level, then we have to fail to reject the null. Okay? If this means that we do not have evidence, all right? So there is not enough evidence to show. And now we would like to interpret the alternative hypothesis here. So what were we trying to show? We were hoping to show more than 20% have heard the ad and recognized the product. So there is not enough evidence to show more than 20% of residents recognize the product. Okay, so unfortunately, this ad did not go as planned. All right, what is our follow-up question? Which possible error could have occurred during the above hypothesis test, and state the error in the context of the problem? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is discuss which type of error could have occurred, and then we're going to write these hypotheses out in words so that we can understand how to interpret the error like we did in the previous problem. Example 1. Remember, I left example 2 up to you. So that's what you're going to have to do after this is over. Just for practice, I would say, before you go and maybe tackle the take-home quiz that's due on this chapter. Okay, which possible error could have occurred during the test? So we failed to, wow, that's not a T. We failed to reject the null. So only, now think to yourself, which type of error makes the first statement as fail to reject? And then we go, oh man, but the null was actually true. Sorry, the null was actually false. Okay, so we failed to reject. So the only type of error possible, go back to look at your definitions, is type 2. Okay, so let's look at our null and alternative in words, and then in this space below, which I know you guys have to write a little bit off the page potentially in the packet, but in the space below, we'll write the error in context so that we understand again how to convert that into words. So if we are stating no change happened, then that means 20% of residents recognize the product, right? No change happened. So the other alternative would be greater than or more than. So let's say more than 20% of residents recognize the product, right? So now we're saying the ad worked and our percentage went above 20, which is what these people wanted. So type 2 error. We claim that, remember, we failed to reject. So failing to reject, if we put that into context here, means there was no change that occurred. So here we claim that the recognition stayed the same, right? That 20% of residents recognize the product. But actually more than 20% recognize it. Right? So we claimed that the percentage was the same, but it actually did go up. So this is actually going to hurt the company, right? We claim that there wasn't a change at all, which is what our test results said, but we made a mistake somewhere, which means that potentially we did this company a disservice. They might have been able to proceed all along with running this ad, and we actually told them to stop running it because it wasn't making a difference. All right, that's my videos for chapter 16. Go forth and finish example 2. Good luck. Keep watching. Keep asking questions.